أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم ففهمنا سليمان وكلنا آتينا حكما وعلما رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم سبحانك اللهم وحنانيك ألم لا تنسني ولا تنسني الحمد لله أفضل الحمد اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آله وسائر النبيين والصالحين وسلم ألم وفقني واهدني وسددني واجمع لي بين الصواب والثواب وعذني من الخطأ والهرمان آمين. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and welcome to another episode of Questions and Answers. So as normal, let me introduce the program. We have a specific topic that I'm going to cover today, inshallah ta'ala, but before I introduce that topic, just to remind people, viewers and listeners, that please do call in on 01274 214 299 if you have any questions. That's Bradford 214 299 if you have any questions, and you will be put through directly to the studio. Again, bearing in mind that we have two sessions sandwiched in between a short break, and we're already well into this session, so get in early, as we know these questions can take some time to respond. The topic, as I said today, a specific topic that I've selected is Salatul Kusuf. This is what's referred to as the prayer of the eclipse. Now, those of us who have an inclination towards astronomy will know that tomorrow morning there is expected, particularly here in the UK and in other parts of the world, for at least a partial solar eclipse. It is expected to be in the morning, anything between sort of about 10 till about 12:30-ish, couple hours, and it's not expected to reach its peak probably around sort of 11 o'clock, 10:45. Now, we use astronomical data, and we've explained about the use of astronomical data in the past when we've discussed about the starting of Ramadan. Now, again, just to remind you, and obviously the start of other months, the astronomical data is only used as a means for preparation. It is not the determinant. It is not what determines when we should pray the Salatul Kusuf, like it does not determine when the Islamic month starts. It's just a extra piece of knowledge, extra piece of information which can be utilized for certain purposes. So allow me to explain with regards to the month declarations. The astronomical data there is used to discard those which would be, at the end of it, incorrect, inaccurate statements made by people when the moon itself has already set even before the sunset, meaning it is impossible to see that particular hilal. It can also be used with other evidences to challenge those statements made by people that sits somewhere in between the impossibility and up to possible, the kind of grey area, the highly improbable, as we called it. And in that area, there is good reason to doubt the actual sighting. However, because a sighting has been brought, there would have to be substantial evidence to the contrary in order to reject it. As in the Sharia, we always give priority to sighting. So again, now let's move on to the Salatul Kusuf, because we are predicting when the actual eclipse will take place. So this is quite amusing in a way. The reason why it's amusing, those ulama that do not support the use of astronomy in any way, shape or form when it comes to the declaration of the new moons, are using astronomical data to tell us when we should pray the actual Salatul Kusuf, the prayer of eclipse. So this is, contradictory, inconsistent, and shows a lack of understanding of both physics and a lack of understanding, unfortunately, of the Sharia, because we cannot be inconsistent in a matter which is both based on a visual, a ru'ya. Why do I say that the sighting of the eclipse is a visual phenomenon? The reason why I say it's a visual phenomenon is because when we look back in the time of the Prophet of Allah, alayhi salatu wasalam, We know that one particular eclipse took place at the time when his son Ibrahim radiallahu anhu passed away. So, and the people saw the eclipse, meaning they saw the moon covering the sun. It became dark. It became cold. I remember once in my life when that happened here in the UK, maybe a decade or 2 decades ago. But anyway, I will carry on with this discussion shortly. We have a caller waiting. So, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear caller.
Walaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. You were discussing very crucial point, and thank you very much. Jazakallah. Who will decide that how much damage we are doing to the community and as a whole Muslim society? Because Shab-e Qadr is very how 80 years prayers are equal to that one night, and how we can find that night if we are doing wrong, like moon sighting is wrong, and who will be responsible for if people who are doing wrong days? Do we realize how much damage we do that way?
Yeah.
Do we realize that how much damage we're doing to the community when we blame each other? Especially young generation, when we blame each other that, oh, he is doing with Saudi Arabia and he is doing with... people are on the moon today,
yeah.
and they don't know what day moon is coming. Is just excuse to dominate yourself, like dominating on each other, instead of dominating our deen, instead of dominating Allah's rules. We make our own rules and then we dominate each other. I think it's equally, everybody is equally responsible, because if you look at that one night, how important that one night is, and people who are doing wrong, who will be responsible?
Okay, Jazakallah khair. Yep, Jazakallah khair, sister, for that. I'll look to respond to that, inshallah. In a nutshell, obviously, the sister's highlighting the issue. I appreciate we're not going to speak about moon sighting today because we're particularly going to speak about the eclipse tomorrow. But she raises a valid point in that the importance of understanding how and when we should start the new months. And unfortunately, yes, parties have developed, and that's just unfortunate. That's the nature of things. And some positions are now just based upon stubbornness and based upon not moving, even though the overwhelming evidence is against that particular position. But we leave that to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For the average person, they need to equip themselves with the knowledge. Once they equip themselves with the knowledge, they need to hold their masjid committees to account, because at the end of the day, it's the masjid committees that make those decisions in the masjids. So they need to hold them to account, say, can you please tell us what particular method you use, who do you approach, how do you decide? And once they explain that, then at least there's a conversation and a dialogue that can take place. Up until then, there's no point amongst us arguing and fighting because it's irrelevant. We need to speak to those individuals who are the decision makers and follow it through from there. And in terms of accountability, as the sister asked, well, that's again the decision makers. They are the ones who have put themselves forward or have been put forward to do this task. So when they make a decision and that impacts on us, then they need to make sure that that decision they make, they've exhausted all possibilities and ensured that they have done the best of their ability to come up with a particular response. So I hope that touches upon at least some of the points which the sister raised. Returning back to our eclipse. So when we speak of the eclipse, and I mentioned that I experienced one maybe a decade or so ago where it went dark. I don't mean it went pitch black, but it went dark. It was clearly, full day, and then it went dark. It went cold. It lasted maybe 20 minutes or so, and then the light returned and it was warm again. So there's no doubt about that. I think most of us would have experienced that. Like I said, maybe a decade or so ago. I've really got a bad track of time, so I can't recall that. But anyway, I'll recall that story shortly. Let me just take our second caller. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Oh, so the call dropped. Sorry about that. We tried our best to get to you as soon as we could. If you did ring in just now, then please do call again, 01274 214 299, and be a little bit patient with us. It's very hard for me to just stop in the middle of a sentence and try to take the call. So try that number again, and we will hopefully get you through and speak to me. So, as I was saying, we will recall not so long ago where we experienced that eclipse. And an eclipse is what is it that we see? It is we see the sun no longer doing its job, which is to provide heat and warmth and light for us in the middle of the day. And because it's such a rare event, something which is so remarkable and so unusual, and when I lecture about this particular point, I make the scientific point that the moon is 400 times closer to us than the sun is. In other words, the sun is 400 times further away to the earth than the moon is. But miraculously, the sun rather, is 400 times bigger as well. So therefore, they fit over the top of each other perfectly, like two discs fit over the top of each other. If that itself is not sufficient evidence to a creator, then I'm not sure what else is, because the chances or the probability of that are so high that you would literally border it on impossible. And then for the two to cover each other, then that itself is also remarkable. But again, we'll get back to that story. We have a caller. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, dear caller.
Wa alaikum salam, dear scholar. I can hardly recognize it, right?
MashaAllah. Today I spun the clock back on the speedometer. So alhamdulillah. How are you?
That's what I'm saying. You look at your body, looking good now. Your baby.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah.
Actually, you're talking about moon and stars and galaxies. I was listening to Dr. Suleiman today. You know Dr. Suleiman?
Yeah.
The Sheikh Dr. Suleiman in America. And he was talking about we as humans can't even comprehend. There are trillions and trillions of planets above the sky. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is dealing with all of them. Our comprehension is so small, it is unbelievable. And he was saying a cheetah can go to 0 to 60 in 3 seconds. An eagle can see 3 miles away. A shark can smell the blood, 1 drop of blood, 3 miles away. We can't even comprehend that. So we think, man, we are everything. We are nothing. We were saying we are nothing.
No, that's Jazakumullah khair for sharing those factual points, because we do sometimes switch off and forget of how insignificant we are. And we buy a house and we buy a car, and suddenly we're puffed up with pride.
Exactly, that's right. And he was talking about kibr, to degrade, to deny, and to judge.
Absolutely, and unfortunately, this is the destroyer of many souls.
That's what he was talking about. And if you could explain to me, Allahumma salli ala sayyidina Muhammad wa ala sayyidina Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim. Allah prayed Abraham, and he says, we should all let Muhammad be prayed like him. So Abraham is prayed so much.
That's right. Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam is mentioned here because he was given such a high status.
Yeah, this is why I'm asking.
Yeah. No, I will.
I've only got 10% battery left.
No problem. Jazakumullah khair, brother.
Thank you.
Inshallah. Assalamu. Yeah, that's an interesting point there, that in durood when we pray Allahumma salli ala Muhammad. Sorry. Okay, we got a caller there. Sorry. Assalamu alaikum, dear caller.
Yeah, wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. How are you, Mufti Sahab?
I'm very well, thank you, my dear brother. You keeping well?
Alhamdulillah, not so bad. Just want to say, earlier on there was a program, two white males. Yeah, they were doing about unity.
Yes.
Today. Unfortunately, mashallah, they were doing nice talk. But one thing, when Ramadan comes, why is that certain channels they don't want to do together? Eat Ramadan and eat together, and they're always doing one day behind, or always most of the time.
Sure.
Unfortunately, mashallah, this year was okay, but
Yeah.
we did together. But
Sure.
why can we not a unity in Ramadan?
Good.
Why can we not follow one particular thing and our all in UK do Eid and Ramadan together instead of one criticizing other, or they are like that, Saudis and whatever it is.
Sure,
they
sure,
criticize us.
sure.
Why is that? Why can't we not a unity one?
Sure.
And do one Eid and Ramadan together, mashallah.
Brilliant.
So we can do it Ramadan Eid and you can do it Bakr Eid also.
MashaAllah. Jazakumullah khair for that question. I'll respond to that, inshallah ta'ala. So, Jazakumullah khair for that. So, we've got a couple of questions that I need to deal with, and hopefully I'll get them squeezed in before our short interval. Again, if you do have any questions, please do call in 01274 214 299. So, the first question, which was about the durood, in which the durood we say, Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala ali Muhammad kama sallaita ala Ibrahim wa ala ali Ibrahim innaka hamidun majid, and then obviously Allahumma barik, and exactly the same. The similitude which is given is with Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam. Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, we know, guaranteed was salutations were sent upon him, he was praised, and the barakah and the mercy was with him. In fact, when you look at Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, every people of the book lay claim to Ibrahim alayhi salam. They refer to him as Abraham. We refer to the three key faiths on the planet, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, as Abrahamic faiths. Because Ibrahim alayhi was a unique individual that played a part in every single faith we see. In fact, and this is just me speculating, in fact you can see when we say Brahman, as in the people of the Hindu tradition, and if you look at the root letters there, is Ba, Ra, Ha, Mim, Brahman. And if you look at Ibrahim, it's also Ba, Ra, Ha, Mim. So there's a possibility, Allahu A'lam, as I said, this is speculation, that there may have been some linking that faith drew from originally from Abrahamic faith, and then over time obviously was modified and changed. So we can see that Ibrahim and he's called as the father, he's referred to as the father, as an elder, he's highly regarded, and he was a powerhouse of a person. He gave the chain to all the prophets, and he's, in fact, we honor and respect him so much that all our ritual acts of Eid al-Adha are based on the Qurbani, as we call it, or the Udhiyya in Arabic, which is the slaughtering of an animal, which is exactly what Ibrahim ﷺ did when he obviously took his son Ismail ﷺ ready for slaughter. And in that case, obviously, when he was slaughtering, a ram from Jannah came and he slaughtered the ram instead. So we imitate that, we repeat that. And that's why we lay claim to Ibrahim ﷺ. Similarly, when we see the rites of Hajj, whether it's the pelting of the Jamarat, whether it's the running sa'i between the Safa Marwa, we see that these are all acts of Ibrahim ﷺ's wife and her young child. Similarly, when we circumambulate around the Kaaba, now we know obviously the Kaaba was made by the Adam ﷺ before and by the angels before that. So there's been through numerous establishments. However, in terms of a building and a structure, we see Ibrahim ﷺ building it with his son. And he made Makkah the Haram. And then Rasulullah imitates this Nabi very closely. That's why out of all the Anbiya who came after, Rasulullah is the closest resemblance. Because like Ibrahim ﷺ made the Haram of Makkah a sacred, sanctified precinct, similarly Rasulullah made that for Medina. Medina also then became a Haram. And if you look across the planet, they're the only two places which are referred to as the Haramain. And we call them Haramain Sharifain. And they're the only two Anbiya that did that. One was Ibrahim ﷺ and one was Ismail Rasulullah Muhammad ﷺ. So you can see that there's so many praiseworthy ranks, praiseworthy station that Ibrahim ﷺ has achieved. And as a result, that's why we connect the Prophet of Allah ﷺ to him, to say that like you gave it to him, also give it to our messenger Muhammad ﷺ. So that's the short response to that. The other question, which was the question of unity, and he mentioned that the two white gentlemen, I'm not sure what the show is called, that precedes mine on Wednesday. The two white Muslims, okay, that precedes this particular show, in which they spoke of unity. Now, unity is absolutely essential, and what the brother is saying is correct. But there has to be unity upon haqq. There has to be unity upon what is right, not necessarily just the sake of unity, because we know that we can gather together on falsehood. We can all come together and agree on something which is not correct. So that doesn't necessarily mean that for the sake of unity, what is correct should be abandoned. and unity, overrules every other activity. That's not the case. What should happen is the conversation, as we spoke to the sister, should take place at ulama level to ensure that there is a unified position. Absolutely. Nobody in their sane mind would disagree that for the UK we need a unified position. And what should be done is that the parties should advocate for that. Now, those part of ulama organizations that I'm a part of, I know, personally speaking and organizationally speaking, we have advocated that, and we have tried our utmost to get fellow colleagues and individuals around the table to come to a unified position. Unfortunately, that's not what everybody wishes for. So until we get that, then we will be able to move forward. At the moment, one party will say it's my way or the highway, and that's not how things work. There has to be some level of acceptance, some way forward, so that there is a unified. Absolutely, we love it when we celebrate Ramadan together or fast together and celebrate Eid al-Fitr together, and obviously Eid al-Adha. This year there might be a chance that Eid al-Adha will fall on 2 different days. And obviously that's not something we want, but at the end of the day, we've got to do what is right. So we're now going to head for a short interval. When we return, please do call 01274 214 299. I will discuss in more detail Salatul Kusuf. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.